And good morning. Welcome to Focus on Stafford County on 1590 KVGB and 97.7 FM, our once-a-month opportunity to talk about all the great things happening in Stafford County. Joining us on the show, Stafford County Economic Development Director Carolyn Dunn and EcoDevo, Program Director Ashley Bevan. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carolyn.
Good morning.
Glad you guys could be in here today. We have an interesting show that we're going to have for you today, talking about an issue that I don't know if a lot of people know about. I don't think it's got a lot of news coverage or news headlines, but something that is very impactful to Stafford County and that whole region to our south. And we do want to talk about that today. I think, what did you call it, Carolyn? The impairment issue. So it has to do with irrigation and the Quivira Wildlife Refuge. So we'll hit that in just a moment. But first, Ashley Bevan with these headlines.
Good morning. So I know I missed last month. I was actually at a Byway meeting for some marketing for that and getting their website revamped. But I've also been working with a small group of individuals in Stafford County. We are forming a young professionals group.
Outstanding.
So, yes, we are super excited to get that started. We will have our first event early November in St. John. And then looking forward, we hope to have something every quarter around Stafford County. So maybe look at doing something in January, maybe in Stafford, and then moving something March or April over to Maxville. So I'm excited to get that starting. It's real informal at this point. We don't even have bylaws that we're going to write. We just want to get it started and see how much interest it gains. So I'm excited. Yay.
I remember the preliminary talks about the Barton County Young Professionals was just an idea, and some people got excited about it. Now they've got about 17,000 members in it. So,
well, and I have to say thank you to Barton County's Young Professional Group, because some of their chairmen have helped me, and they've sent their bylaws down and kind of talked me through how theirs is structured and what their events look like. So I'm appreciative of the area counties that have helped me with walking me through all that. So
I'd love to be a young professional, but they said I'm just nothing but an old professional, so I can't be in it. But the neatest thing about it is a lot of great community projects have come out of the organization here in Barton County, and it's a young group that has led to a lot of different things, but they have fun.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
That's what I'm hoping we get started in Stafford County. I really do. I know Farm Bureau put on an event, I think it was back in February or so, a Young Farmers and Ranchers event in Seward, and they had a good turnout. I think around 40 people. It was something I wasn't able to attend that night. I had a conflict with that, but so I hope this really branches off of that, and we get things going for individuals. So,
what's the first event that you want to do with this then?
So we're getting together in St. John at the livery stable that's right west of the city square, and we'll just have some light food, some snacks, drinks, and some games for people to play. So our sponsors that we have lined up is Ag 360 Insurance, Donna Hilton with Aflac Insurance, and then John Falk is our Farm Bureau agent in St. John. So those are our three sponsors that have been willing to get us started. So
what do you have to be a young professional? 21
to 40-ish. I will ask questions. If you show up, you're welcome.
Well, I want to know when do you get drummed out of young professionals? It's when you get oldish. Is when you.
There you go.
You determine, I guess.
Anything else today?
Not necessarily. We're still just recruiting for our 3 AmeriCorps positions that we have, our community development position, employment opportunity position, and then our community relations position. And you can find information about that on our website at StaffordEcoDevo.com.
Okay, Ashley Bevan with us. Also, Carolyn Dunn today. Carolyn, and we mentioned this is something that's been going on for a while, but I don't know if a lot of people realize what is going on. Right. And this is a letter that you gave me that has been drafted to the Department of Interior, the Honorable Ryan Zinke.
Right.
Well,
maybe some kind of explanation of kind of what's led us to this point. The issue at hand is that Quivira National Wildlife Refuge is part of the Department of Interior Fish and Wildlife Service. In 2013, filed a claim that the water flowing into the refuge from the Rattlesnake Creek had been impaired by irrigation. So they're saying that we have a surface they have a surface water right that is a senior water right in Kansas. We could get into a lot of the minutia of water law, but they have a water right that is filed earlier and is senior to most of the water rights of irrigators in this region. And their claim is that they're not getting enough of that water that they are entitled to because irrigation has occurred and has impacted the flow of the Rattlesnake Creek. They were successful in establishing that the flow of the Rattlesnake Creek has been impaired. And so the issue we're in now is, how is that remedied? How is that fixed?
It looks pretty easy to me.
Well, yes, and yet, it's been something that has been studied extensively. I think there's a range of things that could be done.
Maybe I'm jumping forward here a little because maybe we can talk about, what are the things. But the big thing is, why is Stafford County economic development? Why are people up in arms about this? Good. Let's talk about the economic impact of this, okay? If irrigators have some of the amount of water that they can put on their crops, what's the economic impact we're talking about here, Carolyn?
Well, right. Farming is by far our largest driver of economic activity in our county, both in terms of, tax base and also just the job and revenue side of things. So I think the thing that is really becoming of greater awareness now to our county commissioners, our school districts, and so forth is that this is not just an ag issue. This isn't just something that affects farmers, this is going to affect us all. If the most drastic curtailment of irrigation occurs, it would be truly catastrophic. I hope we're not going to come to a ruling that is that extreme. It could affect 1,900 wells in the area. It's Stafford County's in the heart of it, but it really, the region that is in the proposed local enhanced management area, LEMA, it's basically a boundary of where the irrigation restrictions could occur. That actually includes not only Stafford, but also Pratt, Edwards, Kiowa, Barton, Pawnee, Rice, and Reno counties. So looking at the production of 1,900 wells and the level of curtailing that, could occur, it's probably going to reduce farm revenue at least 20 to 50 million. And the multiplier effect of that, we've consulted with the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City to ensure that we're making an estimate that's reasonable. And the guidance we've gotten on how to kind of estimate that, 30 to 125 million a year, ongoing every year, reduced economic activity in this region. Even a 5% mandated reduction in ag production would have a pretty significant impact on farm output and the multiplier from that. And sometimes I think of it in terms of this. We put so much work into economic development. Of course, we do on our board, but I think of all sorts of groups that are related to, community development, the volunteer boards, the individuals that work so hard to develop their own businesses, fight for those little pieces of revenue, and with the stroke of a pen, we could be negating that and so much more because of this ruling. So I guess maybe to try to, again, come back to what's at issue right now. What is being considered? Well, the chief engineer at the Division of Water Resources has determined that augmentation is an acceptable way to start remedying this problem. So augmentation is the idea of drilling wells using groundwater to provide to Quivira. Now, that could be done by taking water out of irrigation wells, and here's the one that would take the most amount of water. You would pump it down the Rattlesnake Creek, where it's going to evaporate, it's going to seep into the soil, on, and hope that some amount of that gets to the refuge. Well, that's going to take a lot of irrigation water to achieve that. You could drill wells closer to Quivira and pipe it into Quivira. That would take less water, but it would also take a significant investment in piping and infrastructure and so forth. And So another solution that seems to me at least to be pretty reasonable is to consider putting those augmentation wells right on Quivira where it would, the water that's needed could be provided right where it's needed, when it's needed, without a lot of transmission loss and so forth. One of the studies commissioned by the Grand Water Management District showed that it would take only 1,500 acre feet to 5,000, 1,500 to 5,000 acre feet, which is it is so much less drastic than some of the other proposals that are out there. So the challenge is seeing, if Fish and Wildlife Service will engage with us on those kinds of discussions to really kind of seek that efficient solution. They can't be forced to put augmentation wells on their refuge if they don't want it. So that's the dilemma. That's the reason for a letter to the Secretary of Interior. We need the Department of Interior to be more, just willing to discuss a reasonable solution to this.
One thing that would be important here, in my opinion, is irrigators understand the importance of the aquifers and conserving water. And a big part of this is not the Ogallala. It's the Great Bend Prairie portion of the High Plains Aquifer, where not having the water issue, certainly that we are out west.
That's an important distinction. I think a lot of perception in Kansas right now is that we've got water tables that are declining. It's inevitable. We're going to need to cut back in irrigation. And that is an issue much more reflective of western Kansas and the Ogallala Aquifer and even maybe some other parts of Kansas. But right here where we are, our water table is within 2% of being stable with current practices. So this issue that we're talking about here isn't about water conservation. We aren't really talking about using less water as a fundamental issue. What we're talking about here is taking water from one use and transferring it into another use, taking it from irrigation and transferring it to recreational wildlife use. So I think I talk to farmers all the time. I think they value the idea of water conservation. They're not opposed to the idea of improving their techniques on a continual basis to be good stewards of the water that we have. But that kind of is a two-way street, too, is I think how a lot of them would say, that Quivira similarly needs to be open to the things that will be the most efficient use of water, and that probably isn't taking well water and pumping it down a creek.
It makes sense to me that you go drill a couple wells and they've got it right there and they just dump it right into Quivira, right? Okay, that seems pretty simple to me. That seems okay, everybody's happy, we've got this done. So where is the resistance coming from, and why is there concern that this is not going to be able to take place?
Well, I think there's at least some perception that the Department of Interior is resisting it. So again, you can't, to my understanding anyway, require that they will accept that. We would rather work in a more collaborative fashion.
Now, this letter has it been delivered? I mean, here's some of the, we've got Stafford County Commissioners on here.
The Stafford County Commission has said, we need to initiate some attention on this. So they've drafted a letter. They're committed to it, as are others in our city of Stafford, city of Maxville, USD 350 Board of Education, Stafford County Economic Development. We're all ready to speak with a unified voice on this. There are some other counties in the area that are considering signing on to this, and I guess I'd feel more comfortable talking about that at the point that they have had the chance to meet as public bodies and to consider signing on to the letter. But I will say we've contacted the counties in the area that are affected, and I think that there is similar concern and willingness to say, I think there's a better way we can approach this, and we should sit down and
also really CC on this letter, Pat Roberts, Jerry Moran, Ron Estes, U.S. Representative, Roger Marshall from the Big First District, and the Kansas Department of Agriculture Secretary Jackie McClaskey. I'm sure so they're aware of this. What has their response been?
We've had Senator Moran's office, as has Ron Estes's office, maybe even Congressman Marshall's office. They have taken the time to take a tour of Quivira, have been exposed to the issue, and I think their understanding of the need and the importance of this. We're just, I think, trying to help provide some focus to what a reasonable solution might be, because it's a complicated issue. If you really do get into the minutia of it, you'd spend a lot of time just trying to understand the background. And if we can kind of focus this on a reasonable request for how this can move off dead center and again come to a conclusion that has minimal impact on the communities that surround Quivira.
Okay, so what kind of timeline are we working here with? When and is there?
I don't know. I mean,
is the Department of Interior going to sign off and say, okay, this is the augmentation plan we're going to use?
I doubt it. And it's really, to the decision-making entity in this, the one that will determine what the terms of the, how we are properly addressing the impairment claim. That is a decision that is made at the Division of Water Resources at the Kansas Department of Ag. But I think there's the perception that if we had more cooperation with the other entity, we could come to an agreement that is acceptable to all parties, and the Department of Ag would be able to finalize its ruling.
Is there going to be like a date where it comes down and said, all right, this is the ruling that we have, and this is what it will be?
There, to my knowledge, is not a specific time frame that prescribes that.
But at some point, we're going to come to that decision where you got to go turn left, you got to go turn right.
There will be at some point. I could also set you up with some other interviews that could really get into the minutia of how local enhanced management areas work. But the mechanism to implement the restrictions or the augmentation that occur is through the local enhanced management area, and that's overseen by Groundwater Management District Number 5.
Okay, what can people do?
What can people
show
do?
Right now said, guys, we got to get on board. We got to.
One of the biggest things is just becoming familiar with it, trying to educate yourself, ask people questions that do understand it. Economic development has put a little bit of education in regards to how it will impact our economy on our website. It's right there on our front page. It takes you to another page on the website. And like I said, we just give some background on how it will impact our local economy. So again, just the public educating themselves and asking questions to those that understand it.
And it's not exactly like, okay, here's Quivira on this side, here's all the irrigators on the other side, and they're ready to go to war with each other. I don't feel that at all, but it's because it seems like there's a simple solution here. So
well, I don't want to minimize the fact that people have put a lot of, there's a lot of complex analysis that has led to this, but I think that there are some reasonable things that we could do to come to that, solving the problem of giving enough water to Quivira, but also minimizing the impact on irrigation.
I think we might be able to do something with this.
Yeah.
Okay, before you go, grocery update.
Well, we're having a grand opening 2 weeks from yesterday.
Okay, all right.
We've had some school groups come through this week. That's been fun to show the young people the range of jobs that go into just this phase of it. So, we'll talk through sometimes that, there's the ones that you're probably able to easily observe, the concrete contractors, the building contractors, and can guess something about electricity and plumbing. But you might not have thought about what exactly a refrigeration contractor does and what level of complexity there is in all the pipes that connect the coolers back to the back of the room and the circuitry that's involved in that. And, even things down to the porta potty rentals is, a contract with a company based in Maxville. And so altogether, there's been about 35 subcontractors on the project, about a little over 200 people, we think, that have worked on that. And we've tried to talk to the students about the range of professions that are going on here in our region. From engineers, we talked about civil engineering, the fact that they might not have thought that dirt needed engineering, but it does. We know that they're looking at a lot of career options at this stage, so this hopefully helps them get some food for thought.
Who gets to buy the first item from the store? I mean, that'd end up being pretty cool. Just have
I guess it depends on who gets in line first.
I guess if somebody's down there waiting to buy a ham at 2 a.m. 3 days before.
Yeah.
It's exciting times. Carolyn, thanks for bringing this. Is great information, and I think information a lot of people were not aware of. Thanks for coming in today on the program. We'll have more on this as we go along. Ashley, thank you very much for being in attendance today, and that is Focus on Stafford County. News coming up next. Have a great day, everybody.